Hi, everybody. Welcome to Chats with Chaudhry. I hope you're safe and well. Now, you may or may not realize it, but Bio International is kicking off next week in San Diego from the 22nd to 25th. So I'm delighted to be joined by Abzena's Chief Scientific Officer, Campbell Bunce, and the VP and Scientific Leader of Cell Line Development, John Gill, from Abzena, because Abzena have a presence at Bio next week because they have a booth on 5019. They're obviously arranging meetings through the app. But also, these two gentlemen are part of a panel which is about integrated cell line development strategies at Bio. So we're going to learn a bit more about what Abzena are doing at Bio and what the panel's about. So first of all, gentlemen, it's lovely to see you both. How are you?
Very well, thanks, Rizwan.
Yeah,
Well, it's good to
outstanding. Nice
see
to
you,
see
Kim.
you.
It's nice to meet you, John. Well, look, my first question, though, for people who are not familiar with Abzena, is who you are and what you do. So, Campbell, you know the drill. Perhaps you could kick us off with this.
Yeah, so Abzena, we're a CDMO, but we've got a significant kind of front-end CRO capability as well. So we can offer the kind of deep science, technology know-how around design and developability of biologics, bioconjugate molecules, and set them up to take them through to manufacture. And that's our CDMO side of our business. So we can scale biologics up to 2,000 liters, and we're also leaders in the field of bioconjugation as well, where we can manufacture linker payloads to GMP at scale, as well as conjugate those to GMP for clinical studies. And we are, excited to kind of be moving towards the more phase three commercial parts of our services that we can offer our clients to take them all the way through from brain to bench, bench to clinic, and clinic on to commercial.
You've not said that before, have you, though, Campbell? That was so slickly put together, that sentence. John, anything to add to
No, he's our CSO for a reason. He covered everything.
that? Fantastic. Now, my next question, though, and Campbell, we've spoken about this in the past, actually. And in fact, I saw you, I think it was February at World ADC in London, was the last time I think I saw you. But what are the biggest customer trends that you are currently seeing, and how are Abzena addressing them?
Yeah, I think we are going through, a very exciting phase in drug development, for which, Abzena are really well placed to support because what we're seeing trends towards is more complex drugs, biologics in the form of bispecifics, multispecifics, fusion proteins, bioconjugates as well, looking at new cargoes, particularly antibody oligoconjugates. And I mean, the trend that we're seeing is a lot more towards building on the success of the bioconjugates that we've seen in cancer therapies and applying that success to the ability to unlock, potentially valuable treatments for diseases that we felt unable to treat in the past, like muscular dystrophies or cardiopathies and neuropathies, etc. So, we're lucky to work with a lot of those clients, a lot of those early developers, and take them through that, design through lead candidate selection and into manufacture.
Brilliant. Anything to add to that, John?
No, he's doing a good job.
All right. So the market is changing. There's been lots of change in the market conditions. So how have they influenced the organization's strategy and priorities for the coming year?
I mean, I could start maybe a little bit in that. I mean, we know that we've went through, a bumpy phase, other side of COVID. And, I think the biotech sector has struggled to see investment and to get a lot of good ideas invested in to move them forward. I think that's, we're seeing some real good, encouraging signals around investment coming back into the biotech sector. Last couple of years, we've seen that money go to, single assets, getting them to the clinic, creating that value inflection point there. But now we're seeing more investment in building out pipelines.
Right.
So, platform technologies that have potential to actually, treat a number of different disease indications, based on the design of the molecules. Because these molecules are looking more like sort of Swiss Army knives with common components that you can plug and play onto. So we're seeing quite a bit of that now for us. Some of our biggest clients are actually building out pipelines with us in those kind of next generation molecule areas, and they're getting, significant investment to do that.
Fantastic. John, anything to add?
No, I think that it's a really good opportunity to working with some of these pipelines to make sure that not only the sponsor companies, but the investors see how we can reduce that risk because they are different molecules, and it's not just can you express it, but how you can move these things forward to in a timely fashion. Time is money.
Yeah. Fine. Brilliant. Well, look, talking about innovation, I mean, are there any new innovations developments that you are most excited about within your areas of expertise? Maybe, John, you can kick us off on that.
Yeah, it goes right into the previous answer where some of these molecules are really quite complex, whether they're biologics or ADCs. So, what we can leverage from a cell line development platform to be able to demonstrate that we can express them and express them at scale. I'm a problem solver by heart, so I tend to like getting into some of these programs very early on in the discoverability or in the discovery phase and making sure that we can make these molecules, what the manufacturability looks like, how we can express them, scale, and make sure that they're stable molecule and safe for patients.
Brilliant. Campbell, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one of the big, it's not necessarily a technology development, but working at the front end of design of molecules to make sure that they are, to John's point, manufacturable. We're able to actually scale and make them. But we are seeing some, different trends and sort of noises coming out of the agency around, reducing the use of animals, for example, and how we can support that when we are designing these leads and building a data set around them that's going to help encourage regulators that we've got a lot of the data that we don't need to see in animals. So we're using, primary cell lines, for example, from humans, or iPSCs to grow out specific cell types, tissue types, that we can then evaluate not just efficacy but safety of the molecules that we are generating, and we do that with Abzena through a kind of partner company in Cardia, who has a lot of expertise in that area. So we're starting to see more momentum in folks using these kind of partner type opportunities to build a data set that helps smooth the regulatory path, as well as create data that attracts investors.
Yeah, can I ask you a question about that though? Because I was talking to someone else about the use of AI and its acceptance within this space now in terms of the data set, in terms of reliability and the trustworthy. I mean, as an organization, they're looking at data sets. How much impact has AI had in terms of you using data sets and in terms of the work that you do?
Yeah, I mean, I've got not an opinion. I mean, I think we've yet to see really how AI can properly design molecules that we predict the success of downstream. I mean, it'll come maybe relatively soon, but for me, AI at the moment has been used a lot in how we can, improve our processes, particularly in the, straightforward documentation side of things, data collection, analysis, and report writing. Also looking at how we can streamline maybe some of our manufacturing processes as well. There's other areas that we can look at optimizing sequences. We've been looking at how we can optimize the sequence of an antibody sort of variable region, within sort of a couple of minutes to seconds, whereas it's taken us, I don't know, 2 or 3 days in the past. So we're now able to do things a lot more quickly. But also, I think for me, an exciting area that's actually showing tangible results is using AI to identify new targets that we can build drugs around. But in terms of using it to actually design drugs from nothing, I think there's a bit of time to go for that yet.
Cool. And John, what's your opinion about the use of AI?
I think there's promise in a number of different areas, but again, it's early in how we apply those things. So I think from even an upstream manufacturing processes, being able to interpret some of the data across programs and across scale, and being able to apply that to innovation and technically developing new processes that'll enable clean manufacturing, easy manufacturing. I like to go in that direction where you want to simplify some of these complex molecules and be able to identify those risks early, and using the AI to identify those problems or the root cause is key for me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for answering that. Now, as I said, you do have a booth at 509. You're obviously on the partnering app as well. So, what are you looking to get across to visitors at Bio next week in terms of your capabilities and services, and what you're looking to sort of highlight to the visitors? I mean, Campbell, maybe you want to start that.
Yeah, I think where we have built a lot of traction in the sector, and I think we're a standout business amongst our CDMO competitors, is, I think I mentioned it earlier on, our ability to truly understand the drug development path and what's involved in successful drug development. And I've used that phrase, from brain to bench, bench to bedside. And the front end of that brain to bench is really important, because I think a lot of folks, they kind of, at that early stage in R&D, it's fairly easy. You can put together different sort of functionalities or different drug designs, and you can make it small scale. You can test, you can get data. We got all excited. We go to the investors. But as John mentioned earlier on, can we scale it? Can we scale it and actually make it to the appropriate scale and form that we need to get to treat patients? And that's part of what we offer. We offer that one know-how and experience, and the fact that we've done a lot of reps, as my boss would say, in this area, with very, first in planet types of molecules. And that's allowed us to kind of build that experience that helps us predict what the challenges might be and how to address those and solve those problems so that we can get these drugs to clinic. So we've built a business around that. And as I say, we're in a really good position for these next generation biologics. We've got platforms there. John's mentioned our cell line development platform, but also the conjugates. We've got a lot of experience, a lot of expertise around bioconjugation and these next generation bioconjugates that we're seeing a lot of investment into.
Fantastic. And John, what are you looking to try and get across to delegates and visitors next week at Bio?
To me, it's a lot of relationship building and understanding where they are in their CMC journey, right? So there's a lot of compelling POC data. So how do we understand what challenges they're seeing? And then really, I think, mine the technical expertise that exists within Abzena to solve some of those problems. It's really communicating, and I'm going to be interested in doing a lot of listening, which can be a challenge for me, but understanding what those molecules look like and how we can start to play with them.
Fantastic. Now, as I mentioned at the start of this, that you both are speaking on a panel at Bio as part of the BioProcess Theater on Wednesday, June the 24th at 11 a.m. on integrated cell line development strategy. So perhaps, John, you can give viewers a bit of a preview of what they can expect if they come to watch the panel discussion. What are you going to be covering, or what would you like people to get out of it?
Yeah, I think it's a cross section of what our platform looks like from a cell line development perspective, but how we view that integration in terms of solving the early problems and applying it going forward to de-risk what those mean. I sound like a broken record, but that's really what it is, how we can apply our platform to solve those manufacturing problems. Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking forward to communicating on the panel, and making sure that people understand that it's not just a plug and play, put your sequence into our vector. It's really that, work with our scientists and our staff to translate the challenges, because none of these programs, I think, anymore are a simple monoclonal antibody that's just going to go right into anybody's platform, and be something that's going to behave, whether it is aggregation, formulation, stability challenges, or just the wrong choice of the wrong cell line for your manufacturing processes. So it's making sure that people understand how we would apply, their concerns and their risks to our platform for an end result that works for everybody.
Fantastic. And Campbell, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, cell line development, it's at the hub of successful biologics. manufacture. And I think, the lead into that's really important, and how we can use the cell line development platform in a very agile, kind of very responsive way, as John said, to pull from that kind of design developability phase earlier than we might normally do. Normally we maybe, select a lead and then shove it into cell line development. And to John's point, hope that's the right cell line that we're going to take forward. But for us, it's kind of meshing those two things together so that we get that speed, that reliability, and the confidence that, we can take these new drugs into patients as quickly as possible.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, I think that the point is that cell line development in a lot of cases is thought about once the lead characterization is complete. And what we think is a good idea is start to apply some of these technologies and platforms so that it's not taking your lead candidate, throwing it over the fence from a CMC perspective and hoping it works. So how we can leverage this platform and the consistency from the early stages that really allows us to jumpstart a lot of the downstream activities.
Yeah, thank you for that. Now, finally, people are watching this, and there are so many people going to be at Bio next week in San Diego. And there's a lot of people trying to get meetings. So, simple question to both of you. Maybe you first of all, John. Why should people come and contact you and the other teams and members at Abzena and have a meeting with you at Bio?
I think, if nothing else, it's a good conversation with a very talented scientific team. And you build upon that, and we have solutions that can move some of these complex molecules. And it's not just, like I said, these monoclonal antibodies, but from an end-to-end service provider with a deep technical excellence, come let us help you with the CMC planning and execution.
Brilliant. And Campbell, last word to you.
Yes, thanks for giving the last word, Rizwan. I would say, before I joined Abzena, I spent, 18 years or so on the other side of the table in biotech. And I really struggled to find a CDMO, CRO like Abzena, a business that really understood drug development, say from that, the birth of the concept all the way through to patients, and how to apply science, technology, experience, and understanding of drug design and scale and manufacture to get us there. And not only that, but how to, generate data, value-add data, using our analytics and bioassay kind of capabilities to go through those value inflection points and convince investors, convince regulators that, the drug is worth investing in and it's worth testing in patients. And I don't know of any other business that can do everything that we can from, cradle to patients. So yeah, I always get very excited, like John, to speak to new clients and current clients and really understand what their drug looks like, what they would like it to look like, and what we can do to help them get them through those value inflection points.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Campbell, John, for taking time out to talk to me today. I hope both have a safe trip to San Diego next week and a wonderful show. So viewers, if you are attending Bio next week, then make sure you connect with Campbell, John, and the rest of the team at Abzena. You can meet them at the booth at 5019. You can connect with them via the app. And of course, do not miss their panel discussion on Wednesday, June the 24th, which is at 11 a.m. at the BioProcess Theater, booth 5725. But if you can't do any of that because you can't make it to San Diego for whatever reason, you can connect with them on LinkedIn, go to the website, and meet Abzena at many, many, many events across the globe throughout the year. So once again, Campbell, John, thanks for your time. And
Thank
viewers,
you.
Thank you.
And viewers, thank you for watching. Until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.